The first contact occurred in the Kepler outer system, where long-range monitoring stations detected the invasion fleet's arrival with crystalline clarity. What emerged from the distorted space of their impossible propulsion system was beyond anything Federation forces had prepared for, despite months of intensive planning. Contact report. Admiral Marcus Chen commanded from the bridge of the Unity as the sensor data flooded through the quantum communication network. Sir, the invasion fleet is... Massive doesn't begin to describe it, reported Commander Zilara, her normally steady voice carrying undertones of awe. Initial count shows over 1,500 vessels, with the smallest being approximately twice the size of our largest dreadnoughts. Marcus studied the tactical hologram with calm focus, though every instinct screamed warnings about the impossible energy readings coming from the alien vessels. Fleet composition and formation analysis. They're arranged in a perfect sphere, sir, approximately 10 million kilometers in diameter. Each vessel appears to be connected to others through some form of energy field that our sensors can't penetrate. It's as if they're operating as a single massive organism rather than individual ships. On screens throughout Federation space, military commanders and civilian leaders watched as the first images of the invasion fleet were transmitted across the quantum network. The alien vessels defied conventional understanding of spacecraft design. They appeared to be grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that shifted and flowed like living tissue. Weapons analysis, Marcus requested. Unknown, sir. Their defensive screens are preventing detailed scans, but preliminary readings suggest they're channeling stellar-level energy outputs through systems that don't match any known technology. Marcus nodded, his expression betraying none of the concern that every other officer on the bridge was feeling. Signal all Federation forces to implement Defense Pattern Omega. All civilian populations in the engagement zone are to complete evacuation procedures immediately. Sir, interrupted the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the invasion fleet. It's unusual. Put it through. The bridge's main display shimmered, then resolved into an image that defied easy description. The creature addressing them appeared to be composed of shifting geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly, as if their visual cortex wasn't equipped to process the alien's true form. When it spoke, the words bypassed the translation systems entirely and appeared, directly in the minds of everyone listening, a form of communication that felt invasive and wrong on a fundamental level. Inferior biological entities. The alien's mental voice carried overtones of absolute certainty and contempt. You occupy space that belongs to the Devourers. Withdraw your primitive vessels and submit to absorption. Resistance will only prolong your suffering. Marcus stepped forward, his response broadcast across all Federation channels so that every species could hear how humanity chose to reply to ultimatums. This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Terran Federation, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Federation of Allied Species. You are in violation of territorial sovereignty and are hereby ordered to withdraw from Federation space immediately. The alien's mental laughter felt like acid in the minds of everyone who heard it. You dare to make demands? Your primitive technology cannot comprehend our capabilities. We have consumed civilizations that spanned entire galactic clusters. Your Federation is nothing more than an amusing collection of unevolved species waiting to be harvested. Then, Marcus replied with a smile that would have made his grandmother proud, you're about to receive an education in why that assumption is a mistake. Marcus cut the communication and turned to his command staff. All stations implement Battle Plan Prometheus. Signal all Federation commanders. The war begins now. Across the galaxy, the transformation was instantaneous. Defense platforms that had appeared to be simple asteroid installations suddenly revealed themselves as massive weapon systems, employing technology that combined the best innovations of every Federation species. Corvani armor plating protected, Thessian computational cores while human tactical, software-coordinated targeting solutions that utilized Xerian crystal focusing arrays and Xanthari antigrav manipulation fields. The first exchange of fire illuminated space with energies that could be seen from neighboring star systems. The Devourer fleet's weapons were everything the sensors had suggested. Impossible beams of force that seemed to draw power directly from the fabric of space-time itself. But Federation forces had prepared for the impossible. Defensive screens holding, reported the tactical officer aboard the Unity. Integrated shielding systems are absorbing and redistributing enemy fire across the entire fleet network. Marcus watched as the holographic display showed the first phase of the battle unfolding exactly as human strategists had predicted. The Devourers were employing massive firepower, with the expectation that Federation forces would respond conventionally, ship to ship, combat with clearly defined battle lines and predictable tactical responses. Instead, they found themselves facing something completely outside their experience. Federation vessels didn't engage the invasion fleet directly. Instead, they implemented a strategy that human military theorists had termed asymmetric swarming, thousands of smaller vessels working in perfect coordination to create tactical situations that the Devourers' massive ships couldn't respond to effectively, sir. Commander Zilara reported with growing excitement. The enemy fleet is having difficulty adapting to our tactical approach. Their vessels are designed for overwhelming firepower against static targets, but our coordinated movement patterns are preventing them from achieving target lock. What the Devourers were experiencing was the practical application of everything humans had learned from studying Federation military history. Instead of honorable direct engagement, Federation forces employed deception, misdirection, and tactical flexibility that turned the aliens' technological advantages into disadvantages. Corvani assault teams, teleported directly onto Devourer vessels through Thessian calculated weak points in their shielding, discovered that the aliens had never faced boarding actions and had no effective close combat capabilities. Zenthari pilots, using human-designed flight patterns that utilized their natural anti-grav abilities, proved impossible for the Devourers' targeting systems to track effectively. Enemy fleet is fragmenting their formation, reported the sensor operator. It appears they're attempting to respond to our tactics by breaking into smaller engagement groups. Exactly what we wanted, Marcus replied with satisfaction. Signal all commands. Implement Phase 2. Phase 2 was where human tactical thinking truly diverged from traditional Federation approaches. Instead of pressing their advantage in the conventional sense, Federation forces began a coordinated withdrawal that drew the Devourer vessels deeper into Federation space, and into a trap that had been 6 months in the making. Throughout the outer systems, installations that had appeared to be evacuation centers revealed their true nature as camouflaged weapons platforms. The Devourers found themselves surrounded by defensive positions that combined every technological advancement the Federation had achieved over millennia of development. Sir, the tactical officer reported, enemy casualties are mounting, but their technology is adapting. They're beginning to counter our tactical approaches. Marcus nodded calmly. Then it's time for Phase 3. Signal Admiral Chen aboard the Vengeance, initiate the final gambit. Light years away, Admiral Sarah Chen received the signal aboard a vessel that didn't appear on any official Federation records. The Vengeance was humanity's greatest secret, a ship built using technologies that humans had developed in isolation, without Federation knowledge or input. All stations, this is Admiral Chen, she announced across the ship's communication system. Engage quantum drive systems. Time to show our new friends what humans are really capable of. The Vengeance vanished from normal space, utilizing a form of faster-than-light travel that bypassed conventional hyperspace entirely. When it reappeared, it was directly in the center of the Devourer formation, surrounded by enemy vessels that had no idea how it had arrived there. This is Admiral Sarah Chen to all Devourer forces, she broadcast on all frequencies. You made a fundamental error in your assessment of this galaxy. You assumed we were the same primitive civilizations you left behind. You were wrong. The Vengeance opened fire with weapons that the Devourers had never encountered, not because they were more powerful than the aliens' technology, but because they operated on completely different principles. Human weapons didn't try to overcome Devourer defenses. They simply ignored them entirely. Space around the invasion fleet erupted in chaos as Federation forces pressed their attack with renewed intensity. The Devourers, finding their technological advantages neutralized and their tactical assumptions proven false, began a fighting withdrawal that quickly became a full retreat. Sir, Commander Zilara reported with barely contained amazement. The invasion fleet is withdrawing from Federation space. Long-range sensors indicate they're attempting to return to wherever they came from. Marcus studied the tactical display as the Devourer vessels fled, their perfect formation shattered and their aura of invincibility. 6 months after the Federation Council's emergency authorization, the galaxy had transformed into something unrecognizable. Every star system that had previously operated as an independent entity now functioned as part of a vast, interconnected defense network. The change was so complete that many citizens couldn't remember how things had operated before humans arrived with their comprehensive integration plans. Admiral Marcus Chen, recently promoted following his grandmother's retirement, stood on the bridge of the FSS Unity, a massive command vessel that represented everything the Federation had learned about cooperative engineering. The ship itself was a testament to integrated design, Corvani armor plating, Thessian computational systems, Zenthari propulsion technology, and human tactical coordination systems all working in perfect harmony. "Sir," reported Commander Zylara, the former Thessian cadet who had requested assignment to the Human Integration Program immediately after the Academy incident. "Long-range sensors confirm the approach of the first invasion fleet. ETA to outer system engagement, 47 days. Marcus nodded, his attention focused on the holographic tactical display that dominated the bridge's central area. The display showed real-time positions of Federation defense forces throughout known space. Nearly 10,000 vessels of various classes, all coordinated through the quantum communication network that humans had somehow managed to expand beyond theoretical limitations. "Fleet composition?" Marcus asked. "Preliminary scans indicate approximately 1,200 vessels of unknown configuration," reported the sensor operator, a young sylph whose harmonic voice had proven ideal for the precise communication requirements of integrated operations. "Mass displacement suggests vessels significantly larger than Federation Dreadnought class. Weapon signatures? Unknown, sir. Their defensive screens are blocking detailed scans, but energy readings suggest weapon systems operating on principles we don't recognize." Marcus studied the tactical projection with the calm focus that had become his trademark. Around him, the bridge crew, composed of representatives from 17 different species, worked with the seamless coordination that 6 months of intensive integration training had produced. "Commander Zil-Ara, signal all fleet commanders to implement Defense Pattern Alpha 7. All civilian populations in the outer systems are to be evacuated to designated safe zones immediately." "Yes, sir." Zilara's efficiency had improved dramatically since her academy days, though she still occasionally marveled at how thoroughly the humans had revolutionized Federation military doctrine. "Admiral, if I may ask, how confident are we that our preparations will be sufficient?" Marcus smiled, and for a moment he looked very much like his grandfather. "Commander, 3 years ago, Federation space consisted of 200 independent civilizations with no unified command structure, no integrated technologies, and no experience fighting total wars. Today, we have the most advanced military force in galactic history. I'd say our chances are significantly better than they were." In the deeper regions of space, the transformation was even more dramatic. Corvani engineering teams worked alongside human technicians to install quantum communication arrays on asteroids that had been converted into automated defensive platforms. Thessian computational specialists collaborated with Xerion crystal shapers to create targeting systems that could track thousands of enemy vessels simultaneously. But perhaps the most significant change was occurring at the former Galactic Military Academy, which had been converted into the Federation's primary training facility for integrated combat operations. Drill Sergeant Vextar, now wearing the insignia of a Federation integration instructor, supervised joint training exercises between species that had barely spoken to each other 6 months earlier. "Corvani squad, advance on the left flank," Vextar commanded, his bioluminescent patterns now displaying the steady rhythms of focused concentration, rather than the chaotic flashes of anger that had characterized his earlier career. "Thessian team, provide computational support for targeting solutions. Human unit, coordinate overall tactical movement." The training exercise proceeded with precision that would have been impossible under the old system. Corvani's strength complemented Thessian speed, while human tactical planning integrated both into effective combat units that maximized each species' natural advantages. "Sir," called out one of the human cadets, a young woman whose calm demeanor reminded Vextar uncomfortably of Marcus Chen. Request permission to implement improvised tactical modification. Granted, Cadet Williams. Show us what you've learned. Williams activated her personal tactical display and projected a modified version of the training scenario. Instead of the standard three-pronged advance that Federation doctrine recommended, her plan called for a coordinated feint that would draw enemy forces into a trap where Corvani, close combat specialist, could engage while Thessian, support units provided covering fire from elevated positions. Interesting approach, Vextar acknowledged. What makes you believe this modification will be more effective? Because, sir, it's designed to account for enemy assumptions about our capabilities, Williams replied. Standard Federation tactics assume rational opponents operating under similar strategic principles. But if the approaching invasion forces operate under different assumptions about warfare, our standard responses might be exactly what they're expecting. Vextar's patterns shifted to deep blue, the Corvani expression of philosophical consideration. In the months since the Academy incident, he had learned more about human tactical thinking than he had about warfare in his previous 20 years of military service. Explain, he commanded. Humans have studied every recorded conflict in Federation history, Williams continued. We've identified patterns in how your species approach warfare. Honorable engagement, proportional response, clearly defined objectives. These are excellent principles for maintaining civilized society, but they become predictable when facing opponents who don't share those values. The cadet activated another section of her display, showing historical battle analyses that demonstrated exactly how Federation forces had consistently chosen tactics that minimized collateral damage and civilian casualties, even when more ruthless approaches might have been more effective. The approaching invasion fleets come from regions of space where survival depends on total victory, Williams observed. They won't expect Federation forces to employ deception, asymmetric tactics, or strategies that prioritize effectiveness over honor. Are you suggesting we abandon our principles? Asked Cadet Thyssen, a young peaceful consortium member whose species had traditionally avoided all forms of conflict. I'm suggesting we expand them, Williams replied. Honor and effectiveness aren't mutually exclusive if you approach the problem correctly. Humans have learned to fight wars in ways that preserve our values while ensuring our survival. Vextar studied the tactical projection with new understanding. Demonstrate this integrated approach, Cadet Williams. Show us how human thinking changes the equation. What followed was unlike any training exercise the Academy had ever conducted. Williams coordinated the mixed species squad through a series of tactical scenarios that combined traditional Federation strengths with human strategic innovations. Corvani warriors learned to use their natural aggression in service of elaborate deceptions. Thessian computational specialists discovered how to calculate optimal solutions for problems that included variables like enemy psychology and cultural blind spots. By the end of the exercise, even the most skeptical alien cadets had to acknowledge that the human approach produced results that exceeded anything they had achieved using traditional methods. Sir, Williams reported as the exercise concluded, request permission to submit this tactical framework for implementation by active defense forces. Vextar's bioluminescent patterns cycled through the complex sequence that indicated profound respect mixed with anticipation. Permission granted, Cadet and Williams. Thank you for showing an old soldier that there's always more to learn. Meanwhile, in the deep space monitoring stations that ringed Federation territory, human technicians worked alongside alien specialists to track the approaching invasion fleets with increasing precision. The news they gathered was both encouraging and terrifying. Admiral, reported the chief sensor operator at Station Gamma 12, we're getting more detailed readings on the lead invasion fleet. Sir, they're not just larger than our vessels, they're operating technologies that shouldn't be possible. Under current understanding of physics, Admiral Sarah Chen, brought out of retirement to coordinate deep space intelligence operations, studied the incoming data with the calm professionalism that had made her legendary. Define impossible, Commander. Their vessels appear to be manipulating spacetime directly, sir. No visible propulsion systems, no energy signatures that match any known technology, and defensive capabilities that seem to violate conservation of energy principles. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Commander, in my experience, impossible usually just means not yet understood. Keep monitoring and compile everything we learn. If these invasion fleets have technological advantages we haven't encountered, then we need to develop countermeasures we haven't considered. Yes, sir. Admiral, if I may ask. Are you concerned? 3 days after the human withdrawal, the Galactic Federation Council convened an emergency session on the neutral station of Kepler Prime. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the vast amphitheater, their diverse forms creating a tapestry of evolutionary adaptation that had taken millions of years to achieve. At the center of it all sat Chancellor Mordak of the ancient Xerian collective, his crystalline form pulsing with the slow, measured rhythms that indicated deep contemplation. The emergency had been called not just because of the Academy incident, but because of what Federation intelligence services had discovered in the 3 days since. As each species had investigated their own interactions with human students, workers, and diplomats, a disturbing pattern had emerged. The scope of human intelligence gathering operations is beyond anything we previously imagined, reported Director Vaxum of Federation Security. The tall, reed-like sylph's voice carried harmonics of distress that resonated through the chamber's acoustic systems. We have confirmed surveillance activities at 17 major military installations, 12 research facilities, and 43 diplomatic stations. Chancellor Mordak's crystalline structure flickered through the spectrum, displaying the ancient Xerion equivalent of concern. Define surveillance activities, Director. Complete facility mapping, classified document access, personnel behavioral analysis, and real-time monitoring of all communication systems. Vaxum's report caused a ripple of alarm throughout the assembled representatives. In several cases, human students and cultural attachés possessed more accurate information about our facilities than the officers commanding them. At the back of the chamber, Ambassador Chen, Admiral Chen's younger brother, sat quietly in the human delegation section. Unlike the agitated representatives around him, he appeared completely calm, occasionally making notes on a small device that Federation sensors couldn't seem to penetrate. How is such extensive espionage possible? Demanded General Korthax of the Corvani Military Council. The massive warrior's forearms gestured aggressively as he spoke. Our security systems are designed to detect any known surveillance technology. That, said Ambassador Chen, rising from his seat, is precisely the problem with your assumptions about human capabilities. The chamber fell silent as all attention focused on the human diplomat. Chen was an unremarkable figure by most standards, average height, middle-aged, wearing the simple black and silver uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. But something in his manner commanded attention as he walked to the central speaking platform. Chancellor Mordak, honored delegates, Chen began formally. Earth requests permission to address the concerns raised by this emergency session. Permission granted. Mordak's voice resonated like crystal chimes. Please explain your species' actions over the past 72 hours. Chen activated a holographic display that materialized above the speaking platform. The image showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with thousands of points of light indicating Federation installations, trade routes, and military positions. For the past 18 months, since Earth's admission to the Federation, human personnel have been systematically cataloging the capabilities, defenses, and operational procedures of every major facility in known space. Chen's statement caused an uproar among the delegates, but he continued speaking over the noise. This intelligence-gathering operation involved approximately 12,000 human citizens, working in various capacities throughout Federation space. 12,000 spies. General Korthax roared. This is an act of war. No, General, Chen replied calmly. This is an act of due diligence. Before Earth committed to full participation in galactic civilization, we needed to understand what we were joining. The holographic display zoomed in to show a detailed breakdown of Federation military capabilities, trade agreements, and political alliances. The level of detail was staggering, not just raw data, but comprehensive analysis of strengths, weaknesses, and potential threats. Your species has been operating under the assumption that humans are a young, naive civilization eager to learn from your wisdom and experience, Chen continued. This assumption led you to treat our people as curiosities rather than equals, which in turn led to incidents like the one at the military academy. Chancellor, Mordak's crystalline form cycled through, several color patterns before settling on a deep blue that indicated curiosity mixed with wariness. What is Earth's true purpose in joining the Federation? Chen smiled, and for the first time since taking the platform, his diplomatic composure showed a hint of something harder underneath. Earth joined the Federation because we've been watching galactic civilization for over 2 centuries, and we've seen its fundamental flaw. Which is? Prompted the Chancellor. You've forgotten how to fight total wars. The statement hung in the air like a challenge. Several delegates began speaking at once, but Chen raised his hand for silence and continued. Every species in this chamber achieved spaceflight by conquering their homeworld's challenges, environmental disasters, resource scarcity, competing civilizations. But once you reached the stars and joined the Federation, you became comfortable. Your conflicts became limited, your strategies predictable, your responses proportional. The holographic display shifted to show historical data about Federation conflicts over the past millennium. Battle casualties, territorial disputes, and resource allocation wars were all documented with clinical precision. In the past 1,000 years, Federation space has experienced exactly 0 conflicts that threatened the extinction of a major species, Chen observed. Your wars have become ritualized, almost sporting events with agreed-upon rules and acceptable losses. Is that not preferable to the alternative? Asked Ambassador Thesera of the Peaceful Consortium, her melodic voice carrying harmonics of confusion. Not when there are threats approaching that won't follow your rules. Chen activated a new section of the holographic display, and suddenly the chamber was looking at star charts showing regions of space beyond the Federation's borders. Dark zones where long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures, moving toward known space. Human, deep space monitoring stations have identified at least 3 separate civilizations approaching Federation territory. These are not diplomatic missions or exploration fleets. These are conquest armadas numbering in the millions of vessels, operated by species that view warfare as a zero-sum game where only one side survives. The silence in the chamber was now absolute. Even the crystalline Chancellor had stopped his rhythmic pulsing as the implications of Chen's revelation sank in. How long before they arrive? Chancellor Mordak asked quietly. The closest fleet will reach the outer systems in approximately 14 months, Chen replied. The others will follow within 2 years. General Korthax leaned forward, his earlier anger replaced by professional interest. What are human intentions regarding these threats? Chen's smile became genuinely warm for the first time during his address. General, Earth didn't spend 18 months cataloging Federation military capabilities because we were planning to conquer you. We did it because we were planning to save you. The holographic display shifted again, this time showing detailed defensive strategies, fleet deployment patterns, and integrated command structures that incorporated the military assets of every Federation species into a unified defense network. This is what we've been preparing, Chen explained. Not conquest, but coordination. Not domination, but defense. Earth joined the Federation because we knew these threats were coming, and we knew that no single species could survive them alone. Why didn't you simply share this information when you joined? Asked Chancellor Mordak. Because, Chen replied, his expression growing serious again, we needed to know if Federation species could set aside their prejudices and territorial instincts long enough to work together effectively. The Academy incident was just one of dozens of tests we've been conducting. Ambassador Chen gestured toward his colleagues in the human delegation section. Every human spy in Federation space has also been an observer, evaluating your species' capacity for unity in the face of existential threats. The results have been mixed. And now? Prompted the Chancellor. Now, Chen said, Earth formally requests authorization to implement integrated defense protocols for all Federation space. We're not asking for command authority over your forces. We're asking for permission to coordinate them into something that might actually survive. What's coming? The holographic display showed one final image, a projection of Federation space 18 months in the future, with the approaching armadas represented as red zones of destruction advancing through system after system. The choice is yours, Chen concluded. You can continue treating this as a political crisis caused by human arrogance, or you can recognize it as the first day of the most important military campaign in galactic history. Either way, those fleets are still coming. Chancellor Mordak's crystalline form pulsed once, twice. then blazed with pure white light, the Xerian expression of absolute certainty. The Council recognizes Earth's proposal for emergency defense coordination, he announced. All Federation species are hereby authorized to provide full cooperation to human military planners. May the stars preserve us all. The evacuation of human cadets proceeded with mechanical precision that unnerved every alien observer. Within minutes of Marcus's chronometer reaching 0, all 50 human students had converged on the Academy's main docking bay, moving through corridors and past security checkpoints as if they possessed detailed blueprints of the entire facility. Commander Thysek, the Academy's security chief, watched the exodus with growing alarm. They're using maintenance tunnels and service corridors that aren't on any publicly available schematics, he reported to Admiral Korath over the communication system. Some of these passages were classified for security purposes. How long have they known about them? Korath asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer would only add to his mounting concerns. Based on their movement patterns, sir. They've known since the day they arrived. On the training ground, Marcus shouldered his pack with the same calm efficiency displayed by his fellow humans throughout the station. The alien cadets watched in stunned silence as their human classmates prepared to leave, many of them realizing for the first time how little they truly knew about their seemingly unremarkable human colleagues. This is madness, Vextar protested. His earlier arrogance completely evaporated. You cannot mobilize an entire fleet because of a simple disciplinary action. Marcus paused in his preparations to give the Corvani drill sergeant his full attention. Drill sergeant, you seem to be operating under a fundamental misunderstanding about human nature. Would you like me to explain? Explain what? Vextar's bioluminescent patterns flickered between anger and confusion. Why we're really here. Marcus gestured to encompass not just the Academy, but the entire station and the fleet surrounding it. You think Earth joined the Federation because we wanted protection, or technology, or access to galactic trade routes. Those are benefits certainly, but they're not why we're here. The assembled cadets leaned in closer, sensing that Marcus was about to reveal something significant. Even the emergency klaxons seemed to fade into background noise as the young human continued. Humans have been studying galactic civilization for decades before we made first contact. We've observed your wars, your politics, your social structures. We've seen how the Federation operates, how it treats its member species, and what happens to civilizations that can't defend themselves. Marcus's expression grew serious as he looked around at the alien cadets who had been his classmates and competitors for the past year. Earth didn't join the Federation to learn from you. We joined to teach you. Teach us what? Asked Cadet Zilara, a Thessian female who had been one of the few alien students to treat the humans as equals. That underestimating a species based on their apparent limitations is a mistake that can cost you everything. Marcus's smile was gentle, almost apologetic. Every human cadet in this academy is a volunteer, handpicked not for their academic achievements or physical prowess, but for their ability to gather intelligence while appearing completely unremarkable. The implications of that statement hit the alien cadets like a physical blow. Vextar's scale shifted to the pale white that indicated shock among his species. You're spies. We're students, Marcus corrected. But we're also the children and grandchildren of the people who turned Earth from a divided planet into a unified world power in less than a century. Did you really think we'd send our young to train with alien military forces without ensuring they could protect themselves? In the command center, Admiral Chen was providing similar revelations to Admiral Korath. Every human cadet carries enough surveillance equipment to map your entire facility down to the molecular level. They've been taking detailed scans of your weapons, your defensive systems, your communication protocols, and your command structures since the day they arrived. This is an act of espionage, Korath protested. This is an act of parenting, Chen replied coldly. We will not allow our children to be placed in situations where they cannot defend themselves. The fact that your security systems were insufficient to detect our equipment is not our problem. The human admiral gestured to something off-screen, and the tactical display in the Academy Command Center updated to show a three-dimensional map of the entire station. Every room, every corridor, every hidden compartment was outlined in perfect detail, with additional notations indicating the location and specifications of every piece of military hardware on the station. How long have you had this information? Korath asked weakly. 47 hours after our first cadet arrived, Chen answered. It took them that long to bypass your security systems and access your main databases. We were honestly disappointed in how easy it was. Meanwhile, the first human transport ship was docking with the Academy station. The vessel was sleek and angular, its hull composed of materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As the docking clamps engaged, alien crew members throughout the station reported that their sensors couldn't get accurate readings on the ship's internal structure or defensive capabilities. Marcus and his fellow human cadets filed aboard the transport with the same calm efficiency they had displayed throughout their evacuation. As he stepped across the threshold from the station to the ship, Marcus paused and turned back to face Vextar one final time. Drill Sergeant, you asked earlier what I could possibly teach you about warfare. Here's your first lesson. Marcus's voice carried clearly across the docking bay, ensuring that every alien present could hear his words. Humans don't fight wars to win battles. We fight wars to prevent them from happening again. What does that mean? Vextar demanded. It means that every galactic civilization now knows that striking a human citizen has consequences. It means that every military academy in Federation space is now questioning what other surveillance equipment they might have missed. And it means that every species that assumed humans were weak and harmless is now reconsidering their assumptions. Marcus stepped aboard the transport, then turned back one final time. Most importantly, it means that the next time someone considers treating human students with disrespect or violence, they're going to remember this moment and choose differently. The docking bay doors sealed shut with a soft hiss, cutting off any response Vextar might have attempted. Through the observation windows, the alien cadets and officers watched as the transport disengaged from the station and glided smoothly toward the human fleet. As the last human student left the academy, communication systems throughout Federation space were lighting up with reports of similar fleet movements. Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Military Academy was not an isolated incident. It was part of a coordinated operation that saw human forces appearing simultaneously at dozens of Federation installations across known space. Admiral Korath stared at the tactical display showing the human fleet, maintaining its perfect sphere formation around his station. What do they want from us? Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly, showing perhaps a hint of the grandmother she was rather than just the military commander. We want respect, Admiral. Nothing more, nothing less. When your species are ready to treat humans as equals rather than curiosities or inferiors, our cadets will return to your academy. And if we're not ready, Chen's smile was sharp and cold once again. Then you'll have learned a valuable lesson about the price of prejudice. Either way, Earth's children are coming home. The emergency klaxons wailing throughout the academy created a symphony of panic that reached even the training grounds. Cadets from various species looked around nervously, their enhanced hearing picking up the distant sounds of frantic activity from the command levels. Only Marcus remained perfectly calm, his eyes fixed on his chronometer as the seconds ticked away. What have you done? Vextar snarled, his bioluminescent patterns now displaying alarm rather than anger. The drill sergeant's forearms spread wide in an aggressive posture, but there was uncertainty in his movements. Marcus tilted his head slightly, as if considering the question. I haven't done anything, drill sergeant. But you just struck a human citizen without provocation in front of witnesses. That activates certain protocols. High above them, Admiral Korath was discovering exactly what those protocols entailed. The human fleet had arranged itself in a perfect sphere around the Academy station, with the largest vessel, a massive dreadnought easily twice the size of anything in the system's defensive fleet, positioned directly above the training facility. Sir, the communications officer's voice cracked with stress. The human flagship is requesting immediate communication with Academy Command. They're demanding to speak with whoever is responsible for the treatment of human cadet Marcus Chen. Korath felt his secondary hearts skip a beat. In his 70 years of military service, he had never seen a fleet deployment of this magnitude for a single individual. Get me a connection to their commanding officer, now. The main display shimmered, then resolved into the image of a human woman wearing the insignia of a fleet admiral. Her hair was silver gray, pulled back in a severe military style, and her eyes held the cold fury of someone who had spent decades learning how to kill efficiently. Behind her, the bridge of her vessel bustled with activity as hundreds of human officers coordinated the fleet's positioning. Admiral Korath, the human woman said, her voice carrying the crisp authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. I am Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding officer of the Terran Federation's 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Admiral Chen, Korath replied carefully. I'm not sure I understand. This is a Galactic Federation military academy. All cadets here are training under— My grandson was just struck by one of your officers, Admiral Chen interrupted, her voice dropping to a temperature that could freeze helium. Cadet Marcus Chen, service number TF7745 Delta. The incident was recorded by Academy surveillance systems and transmitted to our monitoring stations via quantum entanglement. Communicators embedded in every human cadet's uniform. Korath's mind raced. Quantum entanglement communicators were theoretical technology, supposedly impossible to achieve on any practical scale. The energy requirements alone should have made them prohibitively expensive for anything beyond laboratory experiments. I was not aware of any monitoring systems, Korath admitted. Of course you weren't. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes suggested that Korath's ignorance was expected rather than surprising. When Earth joined the Federation, we agreed to send our children to train alongside alien species. We did not agree to let them be abused. On the training ground, Marcus checked his chronometer again, 2 minutes remaining. Around him, the other cadets were beginning to pick up on the emergency broadcasts echoing through the Academy's communication systems. Words like human fleet and system-wide alert filtered through the chaos, causing alien cadets to stare at the small group of human students with new understanding. Vextar's confidence was evaporating as quickly as his earlier arrogance. This is a military academy, he said, though his voice lacked its previous authority. Discipline is necessary for proper training. My cadet was performing within acceptable parameters for his species' capabilities, Marcus replied calmly. The obstacle course times you criticized were actually above average for human performance standards. You struck me not because I was failing, but because you wanted to humiliate my species in front of the other students. How could you possibly know that? Vextar demanded. Marcus tapped the small device attached to his uniform collar. What everyone had assumed was simply a translator unit. Every word spoken to a human cadet is recorded and analyzed by Federation AI systems. Your emotional patterns, vocal stress indicators, and biometric readings all confirmed that your actions were motivated by species-based prejudice rather than legitimate training concerns. In the command center, Admiral Korath was learning just how thoroughly the humans had prepared for this moment. You've been monitoring our officers? We've been protecting our people, Admiral Chen corrected. When you've spent millennia fighting wars against species with significant physical advantages, you learn to be thorough in your preparations. Every human cadet carries sensors that would make your best intelligence operatives envious. This is a violation of Federation protocols. No, Admiral, it's not. Chen's smile was sharp enough to cut steel. Article 12 of the Federation Education Accord specifically allows member species to employ any necessary measures to ensure the safety of their students. We simply chose to interpret any necessary measures more broadly than you anticipated. Back on the training ground, Marcus's chronometer hit the 1-minute mark. Around the academy, human cadets throughout the facility were receiving identical messages through their quantum communicators. Emergency evacuation protocols were being activated, and the 50 human students began making their way toward designated extraction points with the calm efficiency of individuals following well-rehearsed procedures. Where are they going? A Xanthari cadet asked nervously as she watched her human squadmate walk away without explanation. Home, Marcus replied simply. The Federation just lost its human military students. Vexitar's scales had shifted to the pale coloration that indicated fear among his species. You cannot simply withdraw from the academy. The Federation Treaty, Marcus interrupted, includes a clause allowing any member species to withdraw their citizens from institutions that fail to provide adequate protection from discrimination and violence. You just triggered that clause. Above them, the human fleet was demonstrating exactly why Earth had been invited to join the Federation, despite being a relatively young spacefaring civilization. Each vessel in the formation was broadcasting detailed sensor scans of the Academy station, identifying every weapon system, defensive measure, and potential threat with surgical precision. It was a display of technological superiority disguised as a defensive posture. "Your weapons are impressive," Admiral Korath admitted grudgingly as he watched the tactical displays update in real time. "Our weapons are adequate," Admiral Chen replied dismissively. "Our intelligence-gathering capabilities, however, are unmatched. We know the defensive capabilities of every vessel in this system, the personal histories of every officer currently on duty, and the exact location of every military asset within 50 light-years of this position." The implications of that statement hit Korath like a physical blow. If the humans possessed intelligence networks that comprehensive, then Earth's membership in the Federation represented either the galaxy's greatest opportunity or its most dangerous threat. Marcus's chronometer reached 0, and he looked up at Vextar with an expression of mild disappointment. "Time's up, Drill Sergeant. I hope that slap was worth it." The training grounds of the Galactic Military Academy stretched across 3 kilometers of reinforced metal plating. Designed to withstand the punishment of a dozen different alien species learning combat together, steam rose from various atmospheric regulators as they maintained breathing conditions for beings from water worlds, gas giants, and everything in between. Cadet Marcus Chen stood at attention with his squad, sweat beading on his forehead under the harsh artificial lighting. The human contingent was small, only 50 cadets out of the Academy's 10,000 students. Earth had only recently joined the Galactic Federation, and humans were still proving themselves worthy of military service. Drill Sergeant Vextar towered over the assembled cadets. His forearms crossed in obvious displeasure. The Corvani officer's scaled hide rippled with bioluminescent patterns that every cadet had learned meant extreme irritation. His species had been warriors for millennia before humans had even discovered fire, and he never let anyone forget it. Pathetic display. Vextar's voice boomed across the training ground, his translator collar converting his hissing native tongue into Federation standard. "The obstacle course times today were an embarrassment to this academy. Some of you moved like wounded prey animals." Marcus kept his eyes forward, but he could see his fellow human cadets struggling. The course had been designed for species with natural advantages. Corvani with their forearms, Zenthari with their anti-grav organs, Thessian with their enhanced reflexes. Humans had to work twice as hard to achieve half the results. "Cadet Chen," Vextar's attention snapped to Marcus. "Your time was particularly disappointing. 47 minutes for a course that should take 30 maximum. What excuse do you offer for this failure?" Marcus chose his words carefully. "No excuse, Drill Sergeant. I will improve. You will improve?" Vextar's laugh was a harsh bark. "Your species barely evolved past throwing rocks at predators. You have no enhanced strength, no natural armor, no special abilities. Yet you presume to stand alongside warriors whose bloodlines stretch back eons." The other cadets shifted uncomfortably. Even the alien students recognized that Vextar was crossing lines of basic respect. But the Corvani wasn't finished. Perhaps humans need a reminder of their place in the galactic hierarchy. Vextar stepped closer to Marcus, his massive frame casting a shadow over the human cadet. "You see, young human, there are species that earn respect through strength, through honor, through achievements that span centuries. And then there are species that merely exist." Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but he maintained his composure. His grandfather had been a Marine, and his father had served in Earth's first interstellar conflicts. The Chen family didn't back down, but they also didn't start fights they couldn't finish. "I understand, Drill Sergeant." "Do you?" Vextar's bioluminescent pattern shifted to what Marcus had learned indicated amusement, mixed with contempt. "I wonder if your understanding extends to knowing when you're outmatched." Without warning, Vextar's secondary right arm swung up and across, striking Marcus across the face with enough force to send him stumbling backward. The slap echoed across the training ground like a gunshot. Several alien cadets gasped while others remained silent, uncertain whether this was part of the training or something else entirely. Marcus caught himself, tasting blood where his teeth had cut his lip. The side of his face burned with pain, but it was nothing compared to the cold fury building in his chest. He straightened slowly, wiping blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. "That," Vextar announced to the assembled cadets, "is the sound of reality. Humans are soft, weak, and unprepared for the true conflicts that await in the galaxy. Perhaps it would be better if Earth reconsidered its membership in the Federation before more of its children are needlessly—" "Drill Sergeant," Marcus interrupted. his voice calm despite the rage coursing through his veins. Permission to speak freely. Vextar's patterns shifted to surprise, then dark amusement. Granted, Cadet. Share your wisdom with us. Marcus took a step forward, close enough that he had to crane his neck to look up at the towering alien officer. When he spoke, his voice carried across the silent training ground with perfect clarity. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Vextar's bioluminescent pattern cycled through confusion, then blazed with anger. Several alien cadets took involuntary steps backward, recognizing the signs of an impending confrontation. But Marcus wasn't looking at Vextar anymore. His eyes had gone distant, unfocused, as if he was listening to something only he could hear. When he blinked and his gaze refocused, there was something different in his expression, something that made even the massive Corvani drill sergeant hesitate. 4 minutes, Marcus said quietly, checking the chronometer on his wrist. That's how long it's going to take. 4 minutes for what, human? Vextar demanded, though his voice carried less certainty than before. Marcus smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. For you to understand exactly why Earth earned its place in this Federation. High above the training ground in the Academy's command center, alarms began to sound. Emergency lights bathed the control room in red as tactical officers scrambled to their stations. The massive holographic display that dominated the center of the room flickered to life, showing the approach vectors of dozens of ships. "Admiral!" one of the technicians called out. "We have multiple contacts entering the system. Federation IFF codes, but, sir, these are human vessels. An entire fleet just dropped out of hyperspace." Admiral Korath of the Thessian Navy, commander of the Academy and the system's defenses, stared at the display in growing alarm. The approaching fleet wasn't just large, it was massive. Dreadnoughts, carriers, cruisers, and support vessels numbering in the hundreds, all bearing the distinctive angular design of human military architecture. "How did they get past our early warning systems?" Korath demanded. "Unknown, sir. They just appeared. No hyperspace signatures, no gravitational anomalies. They're simply here." On the training ground below, Marcus was still smiling as his chronometer ticked down. 3 minutes and counting. 2 years after the Battle of Kepler Outer System, the Galactic Federation had evolved into something that would have been unrecognizable to the civilizations that had first welcomed humanity into their ranks. The transformation extended far beyond military integration. It represented a fundamental shift in how galactic civilization approached cooperation, conflict, and the challenges of an expanding universe. Admiral Marcus Chen stood in the observation deck of New Terra Station, the massive orbital facility that had become the Federation's new capital. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see vessels from dozens of species working together with the seamless coordination that had become the new standard for Federation operations. "Sir," Commander Zilara approached, now wearing the insignia of a full Federation admiral herself. "The final reports from the Deep Space Monitoring Network have arrived. You're going to want to see this." Marcus accepted the datapad and reviewed the contents with growing satisfaction. "All 3 invasion fleets have withdrawn beyond the galactic rim?" "Yes, sir. Long-range sensors confirm that the Devourers have not only retreated from Federation space, but they've established defensive positions in their own territory. Intelligence analysis suggests they're fortifying against possible Federation expansion." Marcus laughed, a sound of genuine amusement that echoed through the observation deck. "They think we're planning to invade them?" "Apparently so, sir. Their withdrawal pattern and defensive preparations indicate they now view the Federation as the superior military force in this region of the galaxy." The irony was not lost on Marcus. The species that had approached Federation space with the intention of harvesting inferior civilizations now cowered behind their own defenses, convinced that they faced an expansionist empire that would show them no more mercy than they had planned to show others. "Any communication attempts from Devourer forces?" "Several, sir. They're requesting formal diplomatic contact to discuss territorial boundaries and non-aggression agreements. Apparently they've reconsidered their position on negotiation versus absorption." Marcus studied the star charts displayed on the observation deck's holographic systems. The maps showed Federation space as it existed now, not just the original member species' territories, but expanded zones of influence that included dozens of civilizations that had requested protection following news of the Devourer defeat. The victory at Kepler had accomplished more than simply repelling an invasion. It had demonstrated to the entire galaxy that the Federation represented a new model for civilization, one that could defend itself without sacrificing the cooperative principles that made galactic society possible. "What's the status of the integration programs?" Marcus asked. "Beyond all expectations, sir. We now have 47 new species requesting full Federation membership, and another 132 seeking Defense Alliance agreements. The Academy has expanded to accommodate the demand for integrated training programs." The Academy. Marcus smiled as he remembered the incident that had ultimately led to this moment. Drill Sergeant Vextar, now Commandant Vextar, had become one of the most effective instructors in the expanded program, teaching integrated tactics to species that had previously considered warfare an archaic necessity. "Sir," Zilara continued, "there's one more item in the report you should see. It's about Cadet Williams, the student who developed the asymmetric tactical modifications we used against the Devourers. She's been promoted to the Strategic Planning Division, hasn't she?" "Yes, sir, but that's not the interesting part. She's been working on something. She calls the prevention protocol a comprehensive, early warning system that would detect potential threats before they develop into invasion-level problems." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "The idea is to use our expanded intelligence network not just for defense, but for identifying civilizations that might become aggressive toward their neighbors. Instead of waiting for them to launch invasions, we would offer them Federation membership and integration into galactic society." The concept was so typically human that Marcus had to appreciate its elegant simplicity. Rather than simply defending against threats, humans were proposing to eliminate the conditions that created threats in the first place. "What's the Council's response?" "Unanimous approval, sir. Chancellor Mordak called it the logical evolution of defensive thinking into preventive statesmanship." Marcus nodded, his attention drawn to a new arrival in the space around New Terra Station. The vessel was sleek and angular, bearing the distinctive markings of Earth's diplomatic corps. As he watched, the ship docked with the station's main civilian harbor. "That would be Ambassador Chen arriving for the ceremony," Zilara observed. The ceremony. Marcus had almost forgotten about the formal event scheduled for later that day. The official dedication of the Federation Unity Memorial, commemorating not just the victory over the Devourers, but the transformation of galactic civilization that had followed. "Admiral," Zilara said quietly, "if I may ask a personal question?" "Of course. When your grandfather slapped Drill Sergeant Vextar when this all began, did any of you anticipate it would lead to this?" She gestured toward the bustling traffic of Federation vessels outside the observation windows. Marcus considered the question carefully. "Commander, my family has a saying, every action has consequences, but the most important consequences are often the ones you don't expect. I don't think anyone anticipated that a training incident would ultimately result in the complete reorganization of galactic civilization. But I think my grandfather understood something that the rest of the galaxy didn't. That respect isn't something you ask for. It's something you earn. And sometimes earning it requires demonstrating capabilities that others didn't know you possessed." They stood in comfortable silence for a few moments, watching as a group of Corvani cargo vessels coordinated their approach with Thessian traffic controllers while human-designed navigation systems optimized their flight paths for maximum efficiency. "Admiral," Zilara said eventually, "what do you think comes next? The Devourers are contained, the Federation is stronger than ever, and we have early warning systems that should prevent future threats. What challenges do we face now?" Marcus smiled, his expression carrying the same quiet confidence that had characterized the Chen family for generations. "Commander, humans have learned that peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of justice, opportunity, and cooperation. Our challenge now is to help the rest of the galaxy understand that difference. And if new threats emerge, then we'll face them the same way we face the Devourers, together, as a unified civilization that combines the best of every species' capabilities under principles that ensure everyone's survival and prosperity." As if summoned by their conversation, the communication system activated with a priority message from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. Admiral Chen, the voice of the duty officer carried across the observation deck. We're receiving long-range signals from beyond the galactic rim. Multiple civilizations are requesting contact with Federation diplomatic services. They've heard about our victory over the Devourers and want to discuss mutual defense agreements. Marcus and Zalara exchanged glances, both understanding the implications. The Federation's reputation was spreading beyond known space, attracting the attention of civilizations that had previously hidden from galactic affairs out of fear of aggressive neighbors. Looks like our work is just beginning, Marcus observed. Sir, Zalara replied with a grin that would have made any human proud. Somehow I don't think that's going to be a problem. 3 hours later, representatives from over 300 species gathered in the memorial amphitheater aboard New Terra Station. The diversity of forms and cultures represented a living testament to the cooperative principles that had enabled galactic civilization to survive its greatest test. At the center of the amphitheater stood a simple monument, a sphere of crystallized space-time that reflected the light of every star in Federation space. Inscribed around its base in the languages of every member species was a single message. In memory of those who believed that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that diversity was a source of strength rather than division, and that the greatest victories are those that transform enemies into allies. As the ceremony concluded and representatives from across the galaxy departed to return to their home systems, Marcus remained behind in the amphitheater. He was joined by his grandfather, Admiral Sarah Chen, now in her 90th year but still sharp enough to command a starship if necessity demanded. "Proud of what you've accomplished?" she asked. Marcus considered the question. "Proud of what we've all accomplished. Humans, Corvani, Thessians, Xerians, everyone who chose cooperation over conflict when it mattered most. Any regrets?" "Only one," Marcus replied. "I wish Drill Sergeant Vextar could have seen how wrong his assumptions about human weakness turned out to be." Sarah Chen laughed, the sound carrying echoes of every challenge her family had faced and overcome. "Oh, I think he figured that out fairly quickly. Sometimes the best education comes from discovering that your certainties were based on incomplete information." As they walked toward the transport that would take them back to Earth, Marcus reflected on the journey that had